year, my granddaughter came into the Catholic Church, and I was her sponsor. Everybody has a sponsor. And it's just a really beautiful extended readings of Scripture, and then the priest will go around to everybody. At St. Isidore's, it's usually a big group because we have a lot of college students, a lot of evangelism going on the K-State campus that St. Isidore's does, and we have college students coming in. But it's really, really neat to be able to watch something like this. The priest will come around and anoint the person who's coming in to the church. If they've been baptized, it's a little bit different thing. The Catholic Church recognizes any Christian baptism as long as it's done in the name of the Trinity. So if you were raised Protestant and were baptized and you come into the Catholic Church, they recognize. So, but everybody is anointed with, some who haven't been baptized are baptized, others, but everybody receives a chrism of oil on them, and the oil, again, is one of those, it has meaning to it. And then you choose a patron saint. In your course of your instruction, we believe in the saints. The Catholic Church believes that those who the Church has recognized as being saints, that when we leave this earth, we're not off somewhere in the great wasteland. We believe that the saints are watching over us. We ask them for their intercession. At times they can't answer prayer, but they can intercede for us and ask God to help us through things. As if I needed prayers, then I'd ask Jordan to pray for me. It's that kind of thing, only you're moving it up. When I came into the church, I took, who's now a saint, John Henry Newman, who was just canonized last October. He was very helpful to me in my trek towards becoming Catholic, and so I've offered, I've prayed to him a lot. So that's part of what goes on at Easter Vigil. So if you're really, really interested and you're not doing anything the night before Easter, come join us for Easter Vigil. All 3 Catholic churches in town do that. Mm-hmm. So that's an added little extra.
Do you have any questions for Ron?
Usually how much wine is left at the end for him to finish drinking?
Good question. I like that question because a few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago, one of the students in here, his question was, man, that priest was really slamming down the wine. What's going on with that? Generally, there's not much left. There can be a little. And you may see, if there is any left, usually the chalice minister, that's what we call them, will finish it. So the priest doesn't have to. Because some priests are doing, over a weekend, maybe doing 3 or 4 masses, and they may be doing 4 in one day. So usually there's more than one priest who officiates, but they try to kind of measure how many are going to be there. At St. Isidore's, all the masses are usually packed. So but they try to make it so that there's not much left over. That's a good question.
That's a good reminder too, that be early, especially Ash Wednesday. If it's packed on Sunday, it's going to be packed tight on Ash Wednesday, because that's a day that everybody comes, whether they're a weekly attender or not. So great experience.
About
Strongly
30 minutes.
encourage
You should be there about 30 minutes early on Ash Wednesday to get a good seat. St. Isidore's we're going to be building a new building in the next few years. We raised, believe it or not, in about 6 months, $12 million.
What?
To build a new facility.
Don't y'all think they should tithe on that and give it to MCC? That would help us so much. Just the tithe.
You need to talk to whoever was the head of our fundraising.
No
to do
kidding.
this. But we took our requests out to various places, and the building that we're in now, the first time I walked into St. Isidore's and I looked at it, the first thing that hit me was 1960. That's what I guessed. This had to have been built in 1960, because I've seen enough architecture, and sure enough, it was 60 or 61. The capacity right now is maybe 200, maybe a little over, and we have one of the areas to the north of the main chapel on Sundays it's full of chairs. We have an overflow into the little library, and we have the up above, the bird's nest, I call it. And then we'll have people standing, because there's not enough room. So we have seriously outgrown our size. So the chapel they're going to be built, you can see it on the St. Isidore's webpage, is going to be absolutely gorgeous. The architects who designed it also did the University of Nebraska Catholic Center there, and it's just eye-dropping. So the inside is going to look very, very traditional, like you're walking into a Catholic church in Europe. It's going to have that kind of look to it. So that's why I encourage you to get there early. For Christmas, I went to the vigil mass the night before Christmas, and I got there an hour early, and it was 2/3 full an hour before mass time. So they're popular. So then the other churches, there's also Seven Dollars. It's dollars, not dollars. I think that's how you spell that. And St. Thomas More.
Oh,
Is-
cool.
They also have web, I think that's ORS, DOLORS. Those are also, $7 just a couple of years ago completely renovated the inside of their church, and it is gorgeous.
John Hill
Just
helped with it.
Who?
John Hill, girls residents, John
Oh.
and Connie.
Oh, okay.
Somebody told us that last semester. I was like, oh, cool. Had no idea.
Mhm.
So, what's appropriate dress?
Pretty much what students wear. I've seen, it's funny during football season, if there's a 7 o'clock game, purple overwhelms everybody. This last weekend it was Chief stuff, so it's college kids. We don't have a dress code. Pretty much whatever, jeans, sweatshirt, if you want to. I usually wear jeans and a sweater. I quit wearing sweatshirts to mass because I thought, Ron, you're older, don't grow up a little bit. But usually whatever you have, nobody's gonna notice anything. And I know you all dress well anyway, so just whatever, you'll fit in quite well.
Any other questions?
If you have questions, come talk to me. Be glad to answer
And he has,
questions.
in the past, I know students have sometimes gone with Ron and,
Yeah.
sat with him and he can kind of walk you through the process.
I go on Saturdays. I started doing that when I was having to deal or take care of my mother as she declined. I started going to mass on Saturdays, and I kind of stuck to it. It's at 5 o'clock on Saturdays. It's not quite jam-packed as the Sunday masses are, and I usually sit, you can't miss me because I'm sitting usually over by myself on the north part, just past the altar over there, but there's usually some space. So if you come in and see me, come on over and sit with me, and if you want, unless you say, help me out with what's going on, I'll leave you alone. I won't, I don't want to presume, or I may grab the song sheet and say, this one, or something like that, but I know you're doing this as an assignment, so I try to let you just experience it.
Any more questions for Ron?
It's about that time, isn't it?
Getting close. Let me go over a couple things with the other visit too. Well, I think we've got 3 or 4 minutes at least.
All right, I'll let you go.
Thank you.
See
Y'all
y'all.
thank Ron for his
Yeah.
time. Oh yeah. Okay, so we got 6 whole minutes. Basically, all this says is give people the benefit of the doubt and don't be judgy. Okay, that's the fast version. There's another way of saying give people the benefit of the doubt and don't be judgy. Remember your guest. Be early. We talked about that. Remember that underlying objective of that experience of the anxiety of what it's like to go into church for the first time. Go by yourself or maybe with just 1 or 2 other people. If you go with even 3 or 4 together, you insulate yourself and you don't get that vulnerability feeling. You don't get to that experience. So Make sure you like read through the worksheet before you go, so you know what you're looking for. Like I said, take some notes. It's okay if you do. If there's some stuff some details that you miss, there's some grace in the grading. But know what you're watching for as you go in, and it'll make it a lot easier for you. Be specific. Excuse me. In your as you talk. As you talk about what you learned, be specific. If you write down, I learned how much I like my own church, I'm gonna say, don't be a jerk. Okay, first of all, I'm glad you like your own church, but what did you learn from this experience? So I learned everybody can worship in different ways and God is still honored. You know that already, okay? Dig deeper, all right? Check point values. If something's worth 1 point, you probably don't need to write as much about it as if it's worth 10 points, okay? If you start feeling judgy, these are comments. These are not direct quotes, but basically almost direct quotes from papers I've had in the past. They were just going through the motions. They were cold. They were just robots. If you start feeling that, and it's very normal to start feeling that, okay?
It was a cold.
Yeah, we've got, well, yeah, okay. That one actually is a quote. It's easy to feel that way. It's easy to be like, oh, they're just there because they felt like they had to be there because it's Ash Wednesday and they have to, okay? It's easy to, but what I want you to do is try to turn that back on yourself, okay? If I were in this situation and I knew this was, they call it a day of obligation, then I would just go because I felt like I had to. But don't tell me that Corey went just because he felt like he had to, okay? The repetition was mindless. That's one of the ones that I struggle with on the more charismatic side of things, where let's sing like 3 or 4 words over and over and over. If I were in this situation, it's hard for me to keep my brain engaged. But don't assume that they're not engaged, okay? If you start feeling lazy, don't say stuff like that. Do better, okay? Dig deeper. I already said that. This Catholic Church, come in quietly. They're not going to be all chatty like we typically on ours. Use the resources that are there. People have been very, very gracious and hospitable to our students. Remember though, don't take communion. Ashes, yes, if you go on Ash Wednesday, that's absolutely open to all, but they practice what's called a closed table. And it's out of respect for their beliefs about what happens in communion. The Taizé Church, are you guys familiar with that term at all? Okay, so Taizé is actually the name of a town in France where this very ecumenical practice sprung up. Ecumenical means cross-denominational, very open to everybody. We have one church in town who has a Taizé service. Dr. Madera says Taizé, I say Taizé. So you'll probably hear him saying, you'll be like, oh yeah. So their service is on Thursdays at 7. That is not their Sunday morning service, and it is actually a very, very, very small service, like 5-6 people kind of service. Okay, so when you go in, you go off to the right, I believe, and there's like a little fellowship hall that feels kind of like a living room, and that's where the service is. Taizé is, there's a lot of chant, there's a lot of meditative silence. It's 45 minutes max of being quiet, and it's so good for us. So again, just like with the Catholic Church, if you choose to go to Taizé service, enter quietly, use the resources that are there, try to participate. Again, they've been very, very hospitable to our students, very, very gracious, very kind. Pay attention to what's going on. There'll be like a chant will start, and there's nobody up front, and they just keep singing it over and over and over, and somehow everybody knows when to stop. So just pay attention, don't like belt out one more repetition of it, okay? You'll hear some chanting in English, there may be some in Latin, there may be some in Spanish, and you may hear all of that at the same time, which is also really cool. One thing you need to know if you go to the Taizé service, and this isn't specific to Taizé as much as this Congregational Church, United Church of Christ here in town, is that you need to go in with your eyes open. This is the church in town that has the rainbow flag on their sign, okay? Is that so? Their understanding of Scripture is that homosexuality is an okay with God situation. My understanding of Scripture is different from that, and that's this. I would be glad to chew on that with you. I think it's such a huge issue, and it's such a is such a difficult issue because these are real people on all sides of the argument, with real convictions on all sides of the argument. And so I'm not trying to figure that out right now, although I've posted some resources on MCC Online that I think are really helpful for us as we wrestle through that issue, because I know it's a huge issue. But you just need to know as you're going in. Again, I used to not warn people, and so one of my students saw the minister put his arm around the man beside him, and that's all he could see for the rest of the service, because we didn't talk about the elephant in the room. So just know that going in, and it doesn't mean we can't still, we can disagree on this and we can still learn from each other. But if that's enough of an issue, remember there's other alternatives for this assignment. I'll tell you the rest later, because we're out of time. So go in peace, love, and serve the Lord.
The journal number 2 is the same as it was for number 1.
Okay, I'll try to fix that. Thank you. God bless MCC Online. God bless MCC Online.